So welcome to a quick update today on our lawn rescue project. First of all, I think we should properly introduce Reed. He is 6 years younger than me. We have another brother in between. That is 3 years between us. So Reed, you have lived in Nashville now for how long?
I guess just over 4 years. I moved at the beginning of 2021, so we're kind of settled in here now. I always tell people it's going to take kind of a compelling argument to get us to leave because we do love Nashville. So it's been a fun ride so far, and obviously now adding that home ownership and the yard that we've got has added a little bit of a fun twist to what we get to do together. So I'm looking forward to the project.
Basically a first-time homeowner here. He has owned a different home, but it was more of a townhome style where it wasn't really a yard that he had to take care of. So this is what I consider his first home as far as taking care of the lawn and doing all that stuff. A few things have changed here. I haven't been able to make it down there just because of, it actually rains a lot in Nashville, in case you don't know that, and there's a lot of different storms and things that have happened in between here, schedules and all that. Reed also happens to be an airline pilot, so he doesn't have the same quote-unquote normal schedule as most people where he comes home at night every night. So we're working around all those things, but I wanted to talk about first one key application that you have done, because when we took that first look at the lawn, we saw that there were just tons of weeds everywhere, and I think you quickly noticed as well that as soon as it started to warm up just a little bit, all of those weeds started to take off, and so we needed to do something, even though I couldn't make it there in time to do that. So let's talk about that application and what you did with that.
Yeah, so I think you'll probably post the link to the product that we used, but essentially it was kind of a quick Band-Aid on the spring season we've got here. So you gave me some recommendations on a couple of things that we could use, and we went pretty simple, but a quick afternoon application kind of knocked out almost everything that we had growing in the yard. And I think we'll have some before and hopefully some after video for everybody to see. But it was quick and easy. Used the garden hose, hooked it up, and I'd say, 20, 30 minutes, and we had it knocked out.
And that's kind of one of the key things that I wanted to mention here, and that I mentioned to Reed as well on the phone, is that it doesn't always have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be seeding and doing lots of different things in order to make a difference. Sometimes it's just using the right product at the right time, and that was just from a regular store. I think he got it at Lowe's or a similar store there, and got that done in not a whole lot of time. That's the other thing that we're dealing with here in terms of this lawn, is that it's just the right size where it's not too big. You can make a lot of applications in a small amount of time, so that's a nice thing actually in a lot of ways, but made a huge difference here with just that product. And that's exactly what you can do when you can just apply the right product at the right time. So that was the first thing. Now, a lot has happened since then, and we were waiting for all this next part in order for me to make my next appearance there, I guess, at the yard. So Reed, let's talk about a little bit more of what's happened in between here in terms of irrigation and a little project you had in the backyard as well.
Yeah, so since the last video, actually quite a bit has changed. The first and foremost, we put in an extension of the concrete pad that's already existing in the backyard, and they kind of did a 2-level system so that the water would drain properly, and then there wasn't too much of a grade, if you will, adding dirt or taking dirt out. So that was the first thing. They kind of had to work between the weather to get that done. Just like you mentioned, it's been thunderstorms, rain over and over repeatedly this spring. And then the next phase was adding that irrigation system. So they are finishing up actually today the final kind of steps and touches on that. But unfortunately, with how wet it's been, they did a number on the yard, and we kind of knew that was going to happen, but it's one of those things now that we're going to have to come back and kind of work through. So
that's also one of the things that I always say. It's much better to get this pain out of the way early and kind of look at how things got destroyed a little bit. It's much better to do it that way than it is to do it the way I did at my old house, which is have the yard in pristine, leveled condition, 3/4 inch ryegrass, and then have someone come in and tear the whole thing up. I believe that might have been one moment when you might say you could have seen a grown man cry on camera, but I refused to do that day.
I still remember that day, actually. I think I remember you sending me pictures and video, and I could not believe what was happening in your perfect yard, but
yeah,
you made it work.
So much better here at this point, and that's really what we planned, was to do this. It doesn't look great at the moment, and it is painful to look at some of the damage that has occurred just because of, you got to get equipment in there, you got to work on things when maybe it is slightly wet. But these are all fixable things. It's much better to do at this time frame than it is to do it later on when you've already fixed things. So if you weren't going to do an irrigation system, that's totally fine. You know, at my old house, I kind of had a makeshift system that I used that was above the ground. You could move stakes around. You could have timers now running the water for you. So if that's the way that you decide to go, it's going to be a lot cheaper, obviously. It's just not quite as perfect coverage, but for someone like Reed, who is not going to be home every night in order to move things around, in order to check on those sprinklers and do all of that stuff, it just made sense for us to go ahead with the irrigation system, spend the money on it to get it in place, and then go to work here for the rest of the season to do some of that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most beneficial pieces of the puzzle is the fact that I'm just simply not home on any sort of consistent schedule. So having the irrigation system is that consistency that we definitely needed to bring to the project.
Yeah, and that's going to be another thing that plays into it later on here. We're going to talk about how some of this maintenance stuff and all of that plays into it with Reed not being there on as a consistent basis necessarily, but we're going to work on all of that. So I hope to be back maybe in a couple weeks here and get at least something down on some of these bare soil areas, whether that's just a temporary grass or whatever we decide to do at that point. It's getting into the type of season. I think I looked at the forecast that it's actually going to hit 90 there in maybe next week. And so that's getting into a point where it's not great for seeding or doing the spring thing, but these are things that we've talked about on the channel before too. Sometimes you just do not have a choice. You can either let all the weeds come in and take over that soil and kill it all off later, or at least get something in place. So we're going to have to make a decision on that. We'll see what we do with that whole thing, but that's going to be the next thing coming up. And today, just wanted to show you what has been going on since there's been a lot of work done to the yard and that key application as far as the weed control goes as well, and some of the results from that. So anything else to share here, Reed, in the meantime?
I think a couple of the neighbors are maybe questioning exactly what's happening in the yard. And I know that our golden retriever is certainly excited to have things cleaned up and back to normal. So definitely a process, but one that we're excited about, and that's kind of what we're bringing everybody along for. So should be a fun project moving forward.
Thank you to everyone today for just watching this quick update, and I'll be back there soon to get some actual work done, get my hands dirty again, or maybe I'll make Reed do all the work. We're going to find that out. But thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.